should probably go ahead and get started. Keep things moving along.
Excellent. Sounds good to me. All right. At this point, I will call to order we are recording it. I will call to order the ACECDC board meeting for Thursday, April 17th, 2025. We'll lead off with introductions. I don't necessarily think we need to do introductions for everyone who's on screen because it's part of the record anyway. But if those of you that are there live would introduce yourselves for the camera, that would be greatly appreciated.
Camille.
Well, I'm Camille, ACEDC.
Richard. And I'm Richard McCurr, Middlebury rep.
Nicole Bashand, ACEDC.
Alex Armani Munn, ACEDC.
Fred Kenny, ACEDC.
Excellent. Thank you very much. If anyone feels left out and would like to introduce themselves that's on camera, feel free, but otherwise we'll move on. First order would be to approve the agenda or any changes to the agenda. Alex, do you have any changes? I know that I believe we do need a brief executive session.
Yes.
At the end of this, I don't anticipate it to be very long for personnel. So, are there any other changes? If not, I'd take a motion to approve the agenda.
Move it.
Okay, so it's been
Second.
moved and seconded. Thank you very much. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. All those opposed? Motion's carried. March meeting minutes. They were in the packet or on SharePoint. Hope everyone had a chance to review them. Do we have a motion to accept them?
I'll move.
Okay, it's been moved. It's been seconded. Are there any discussion or any changes to the meeting minutes? All right, hearing none. All those in favor of accepting the meeting minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? All right, motion's carried.
I have to abstain, Jason. I wasn't here.
Okay. Okay. So passed with one abstention. I'm going to turn it over to either Alex or Fred, whoever wants to do the March staff activities report.
All right, I'll start off and we'll go to Alex. This will be my last board meeting that I'll be leading, I guess. Let's see. Have lots of startup and new business activity. We've been meeting with a lot of folks starting up businesses and just some acquisitions. And obviously been taking Alex to a lot of introductory meetings with the businesses and organizations in the area. Actually have talked to 4 different company or people that are potential borrowers, so that's good. Haven't had a lot of borrowing activity in the last few months, so it's good to have some interest again. We'll see how those shake out, but some of those are acquisitions, some are renovations, expansions, and one is a current borrower who needs to borrow some more money. So working through all those, and we'll see how they shake out and take them to the loan committee. Got a great webinar in March. A lot of attendees. I think we had 35 people there. It was on AI and like using chat. What's it called? Chat or GPT. You see, I use it a lot. But it was really good. Webinar and a lot of people there, and I appreciate it. Beginning of March, Alex and I went to Montpelier and attended our annual RDC legislative coffee. So we met 9 out of our 10 delegates from this area during the day, and lots of other legislators as well. And Camille finished up our IRP application, and that was submitted by the end of March.
Also, Ken said he's reviewing it this week, so.
Oh, great.
Awesome.
Wow, a response. So that's good news. We retained a new attorney. We had to find a new attorney. And we retained Dave Venman. He's in Virgins. So he'll be our new attorney for doing our loan documents and anything else we need an attorney for. Hopefully not very often, except for our loan closings. We also got 3 new members in March, which is good news, all startups. So they're at the lower tier level, but it's great to have new members. The February and March marketing and communication reports were in your packets. So if there are any questions on those or any other questions on staff activity, or Alex, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I do have a few things. So right off the top, I will just mention some exciting news that we have received some new loan interest this week. So after a few months of slow loan activity, we have 2 potential loan applications that could be coming forward before the loan committee in the coming weeks. So I'll refrain from sharing too much information on those right now as they're still in the works. But hopeful that we'll be able to come forward again with 2 pretty compelling loans in the next month. Otherwise, I just want to share that Camille is actively working on some new grant opportunities. We'll also have some communications going out this week, likely today or tomorrow, just announcing some upcoming grant programs over the next 6 months that we're hoping we can generate interest for among our community partners and municipalities. So really staying active with our grant assistance. Another update I want to share very quickly, Nicole McTavish, had a conversation recently with Patty Conlon from DRM about the potential for hosting a legislator visit and tour at the Career Center later this year, to give them an opportunity to see the Career Center firsthand, to engage with Nicole, and to really gain a better understanding for the significant impact that the Career Center has in Addison County. So that is a conversation that we'll likely be revisiting in the coming months, but just want to give folks a heads up that, I, in partnership with Nicole, would certainly like to pursue a legislator tour later this year, and would certainly love board participation and input on that. So next up, just want to let folks know that we are thankfully confirmed at Basin Harbor for May 22nd. We'll be talking a little bit more about the board retreat in this meeting, but building on that, we have confirmed Town Hall Theater for our annual meeting on the evening of Thursday, November 6th. In addition, we have confirmed our mixer for Lincoln Peak Winery. We have not settled on an exact date for that, but that will be in September. So excited to have those venues confirmed. And I'll be working with Nicole here on staff to begin planning and coordination of those events. Otherwise, just want to give folks a quick update on our efforts around pre-development work at the Middlebury Industrial Park. We had a good meeting with Middlebury College about a week or 2 ago. They were very supportive of the project. We will be meeting with Mark Petrushin, the town of Middlebury manager, tomorrow, as well as the assistant manager, David. And we'll be going before the select board on Tuesday to hopefully get their support and financial participation in that work. So after that meeting, I'll be working with Camille to secure engineering services and to begin moving that project forward. Otherwise, the last kind of timely update is our regional economic development strategy, or REDS, is underway. So just a quick update for folks. The REDS was an action called for under the West Central Vermont SEDS, or Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy, which, again, the specific action item was that we come up with an economic development strategy or plan specific to Addison County. So in addition to that purpose, the REDS will also serve as a formal update to the regional plan's economy chapter, which, as far as I can tell, was drafted in 2004 and has not had a significant update since. So in addition to serving that purpose for the RPC, the Reds will also help really inform our efforts and guide strategic planning for this board and for our organization moving forward. So I did want folks to know that we will be convening the Reds committee next month. And on that committee, we have Nicole, Rennie, Mark Foster, and then we also had Valerie from Bristol. So we technically have an empty seat on that committee representing our board. So if there is anybody who would like to serve in that position, I would entertain a motion if that's required for assigning somebody to a committee, or if we just have a volunteer.
Yeah, I don't think you need a motion.
Okay. So if we do have any volunteers who would like to participate, again, that meeting hasn't been scheduled, but that will occur likely in the first or second week of May. And happy to coordinate via email as well. So just something to think about. Otherwise, I'll just let folks know we have been extremely busy, very active, getting out and meeting with people. So there's certainly much more I could speak to as far as updates, but I'll refrain for now. But if there are any questions or anybody wants to hear more about who we've been meeting with or what we've been up to, certainly happy to discuss that.
I want to mention the April 28th event. I know
Yeah.
it went out yesterday.
Yeah, good call, Fred. Thank you. So we are in partnership with Bristol Core, the Virgins Partnership, and Better Middlebury Partnership, hosting a small business forum at the library, the Bristol Library, on April 28th. So that small business forum is an opportunity. We have several Addison County legislators who will be attending, as well as some representatives from our congressional delegation. No representatives themselves, but we will have staff. And that's just an opportunity for businesses to share their concerns and challenges they're facing around tariffs and other issues, really at the federal level. So great opportunity to bring and get our businesses and elected officials together. It is capped at 30 attendees. So this week we sent out really a registration form for folks to express their interest in attending. And then myself, along with the directors from the 3 downtown organizations, will be reviewing those interest forms and inviting 30 people to attend. And among the people who express interest, we will be making sort of deliberate invitations just to ensure that we have the best mix of folks from different municipalities, different areas, different industries, so that we get as much representation at that event as possible.
And on a housekeeping note, you're gonna see a couple of emails from me canceling the executive committee meeting series and the board meeting series from my account, and then Alex will, so you need to accept those to cancel those, and then Alex will send out a new meeting invitation to the executive committee and to the board for the executive committee meetings, for the board meetings, and you'll have to accept those to get them back on your calendar. Sorry about that complication, but you need to have them from Alex for the future. And yeah, so that's it.
That'd be
That's it from
beneficial.
us.
It would be annoying if we logged into your meeting and no one was there.
Yeah.
Or more importantly, no one was there to let us in. So, excellent. Thank you very much, both of you. It's greatly appreciated. At this point, I'll open the meeting for citizen comments. It's an opportunity to raise questions, concerns, or address issues not otherwise on the agenda. Do we have any? Right. Hearing none,
Okay.
I'm going to turn it back to Fred and Alex for the transition update.
All I have is that I'm working part-time now, starting this past Monday. So between now and the end of June, I will reduce my hours accordingly. And Alex and I looked at a plan of kind of the projects I need to wrap up before I leave and kind of the topics we need to cover before I go, but we should be able to get through most of that and the remaining meetings around the county throughout April and maybe in the beginning throughout May, I mean, yeah, so I am starting to fade off into the sunset, but, I'm still around, but just remember to email Alex from now on, especially after you pass this resolution you're gonna have passed today, and then maybe CC me if necessary, but, and if you pass this resolution, Alex will officially take over May 1st. I already mentioned meeting cancellations and re-invite. You have anything else to add?
I'm excited.
Congratulations. This seems to be going extremely smoothly. So, any questions for Fred or Alex before we move on? All right. So in your packet, there's a board resolution authorizing new executive director. If we could have a motion.
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Seconded.
Okay. Is there any discussion? All right. So all those in favor of Gina Laro, the board secretary, executing this agreement, signify by saying aye, or this resolution.
Aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion's carried. We will get that. We will get that executed. Yeah, that'd be
That's
really
awesome.
awkward, wouldn't it?
So Gene, I'll need to get with you to get that signed, and we'll also have a couple letters that to go to the banks that authorize him to be a signatory to the bank.
I can run down later this morning if that works for you.
Actually, tomorrow would be better.
Okay.
That
I
works
think
for you?
that'll work for me. I think that'll work. Yeah.
Excellent.
Official.
Draft board retreat.
Yes. Would you
Did I
mind
not
screen sharing the agenda? So we'll be screen sharing a draft agenda here real quick. So I'd just like to walk through this with the board, just get some thoughts. There is one item on there that I'll be looking specifically for feedback on. But just want to give folks a heads up on what we can expect here at the retreat in May. As Camille is bringing that up, I did want to mention as well with the Opus or the one-page operating strategy, in conversations with the executive committee, I had really heard some pretty strong feedback that in past retreats, there was a lot of time spent on the left side of the Opus and deliberating over what that should look like. And there was a strong interest this year in not dedicating really much time or getting too hung up on the content on the left side of the Opus, but really focusing instead on the right side of the Opus. And yeah, I'm sorry. Would you mind bringing that up too, just in case, before I hop into the agenda? So we'll take a quick look at the Opus here, and then we'll go through the agenda.
The Opus was in the packet too.
Okay, and I'm sure folks have spent ample time looking at the Opus. But I wanted to take this opportunity ahead of the May retreat to really just gauge the board's feelings on any need or urgency to update that left side. Again, unless the board feels strongly that we need to conduct another SWOT analysis or reconsider our values or our vision, we really want to, in the retreat in May, focus specifically on our 3 to 5 year goals, our 1 year initiatives, and our quarterly, or another divided by thirds of the year action items. So again, if anybody right now wants to share any thoughts on that left side of the Opus, I just want to make sure folks had the opportunity now to again weigh in if they feel there's a need to discuss any of that content. And
I don't see anything. And I'd love to say there were some threats we could cross off that list. But I don't see that that's the case. I don't think there's been in the last year there's been any major major changes that would change our position on any of these.
And just so folks are aware as well, also in communication with the executive committee, we have discussed in future years, really beginning next year, moving beyond the Opus model for our strategic planning. So I'm excited to be using the Opus as really a framework for planning this year and building off those past efforts. But just so folks are aware, next year entering our retreat, we may look at a different model, just a different format for that strategic plan. So
I think you can take leadership transition out of the weakness category. I mean, there's a couple of them that may be old in there, but yeah.
Yeah.
Would it be worth adding something about volatility at the national level as
Yeah,
a threat?
absolutely.
Because that does threaten our funding,
Yep.
right, possibilities.
I hope this apologies for a little slow this morning.
The laptop's on the end of its life.
All right.
Okay, we'll go to the retreat.
Do you want to, yeah, we can just go to the agenda. All right, so we are going to jump over to the agenda and we'll just run through this real quick. Oh.
Never saw that one.
Can't be good.
So while we're pulling that up, I have it committed to memory, so I'll just jump right into it. So we are looking at a 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. agenda. So I think we're able to trim an hour off of the retreat. Last year we went 8:30 to 4:30. So I think with a 9 to 4 agenda, we can save ourselves a little time, and it also gives us a little cushion that if we do, need to extend any of those conversations, we can go a little longer. So at the beginning of the agenda, very basic, just 9 to 9:30. We'll just arrive, coffee, socializing. 9:30 to 9:45. We'll just do a quick welcome, do an overview of the agenda, maybe share some thoughts and impressions on the previous year and thoughts on the year ahead. And then at 9:45 is when we'll really jump into the meat of the retreat. So we'll start with a quick year in review and an evaluation of the current opus. And again, that's just 15 minutes, just a quick, hey, here are the highlights of what happened over the previous year. Here's what we were able to check off of our action items on the current opus. And then at 10 a.m., we'll jump into a presentation and discussion on ACEDC operations. So this is something that I have discussed in meetings with several board members as well as the executive committee. What I'd like to do here is really a deep dive and analysis into ACDC operations, how staff spends our time, the impact that has on fulfilling our mission, on generating revenue, and really giving board members an in-depth look at how we function as an organization. And I think this will be really important in providing context for our planning in the afternoon. And to give folks just an anecdotal example of the type of thing we'll look at here, I'll mention something that has really come about in the last week or so, and I'll give Fred credit for this. This was an observation he made and an action he initiated. But we recently recognized that with Camille's title as project and grants manager, it made a lot of sense for her to not only be doing the grant research and applications and grant administration, but to also be doing the reporting on grants that had previously been under Nicole's job duties. So now, Camille, we're basically shifting all grant duties from Nicole over to Camille. So now Camille will be able to see a grant through its entire life cycle, from the time of researching it and assisting with an application to the actual reporting, request for reimbursement, and then close out. And what that does is allow Nicole to focus more time on social media, marketing, and communications, which right now we are paying Clover Ridge Media a pretty substantial amount per month to do a lot of that work. And with Nicole's experience and skill set, that's work that we know she has the capability to do in-house. So again, this is an observation Fred made and discussed with me about a week ago, and I think everybody on staff jumped on board and was excited about making that shift. But again, it represents the type of operational analysis that I'd like to present to the board, just saying, hey, we realize that here's a place we're directing our efforts where we could be more efficient and be saving money. So again, that's just one anecdotal example of the type of content that we'll have in this presentation. So we'll be looking at things, again, not just the way that each person's role is defined, but also what services are we contracting out right now? Where do we see opportunities for cost savings, and where do we see opportunities operationally to be maybe doing a little bit more? And this represents a lot of internal discussions we've been having. So again, this is really opening up the doors and showing the board how the sausage is made, if you will. Again, just to provide some deeper insight that I think will be invaluable when it comes to really doing our strategic planning and specific one-year goals and action items to achieve those. So again, I say presentation discussion there. I don't want to talk at you for an hour. I want to give you some context and open it up for questions, and again, take that hour to really have a deep discussion on how we're operating. And then from 11 to noon, I'd like to do again, similar presentation or discussion that's a little more macro and focused. So really looking at economic trends that we're seeing here in Addison County, as well as business conditions. I have shared with a few folks in one-on-one conversations that I have been collecting a lot of data and doing some analysis that we haven't necessarily done in the past. So looking at things like sales tax collections in Addison County and gross sales at retail businesses as well as service providers. Also looking at new business formations and things of that nature. This will also, in this presentation, be an opportunity for us to share feedback from our annual member survey, which will be wrapping up next week, and also just sharing insights from our engagements and interactions with businesses and community partners. So again, in that 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. presentation, we'll be looking closely at us as an organization, and then from 11 to noon, taking a step back and looking at the larger trends and conditions that impact our work and our mission. And really the goal of these two presentations and discussions is to set the table, if you will, for the strategic planning that we'll do in the afternoon. Under that, you see the alternative option to this, because again, will be more of the tedious kind of PowerPoint driven, me talking at you for 2 hours. So if folks, the option here, the alternative option would be to condense those two presentations down to just 1 hour, 10 to 11, and then again, allowing for some discussion. And then from 11 to noon, we could potentially, one idea I had was doing focus groups where we would basically break into 3 different small groups, and each group would really do a deep dive and an open discussion into an issue that we can determine. It could be something like housing, workforce development, business support, but really having a more interactive discussion. The other thing we could do there is just simple team building, getting to know each other a little bit better. Something that, again, is a little less just me talking at you and going through PowerPoint slides. I feel pretty strongly about sticking with my original proposed agenda of doing the presentation discussion, but I did just want to let folks know that if we feel the need to maybe break it up and make it a little more interactive, we can go that direction as well. So curious on folks' thoughts with that approach in the morning, if we feel comfortable doing the back-to-back presentations, or if we'd like to do something a little more interactive.
I would almost always vote for more interactive, just because it is a long day. But that said,
Yeah.
when I hear you say that you feel strongly about your original proposal, so to speak, of this timeline, I think it's important for us to hear that as the new incoming director, really feeling like there's a benefit in having this time. So my vote would be to stick with what your original plan was.
Agreed, Gina.
Great.
I
Same
would echo
thoughts.
that, and the key is we'll have enough in theory, at the end of each of those, we'll have enough discussion time, and throughout that process, so.
Yeah, and I can say confidently that there's no shortage of, I think, information that we as a staff can share in those presentations. So, yeah, excited again to share all that information, that insight with all of you. So we'll stick with the original agenda for the morning. And then from noon to 1, we'll break for lunch, and then from 1 to 2:15 is where I'd like to have. Really in the afternoon, next one we'll jump into updating the Opus and having discussions around strategic planning. So 1 to 2:15, we'll review our 3 to 5 year goals, or what are currently referred to as the 3-year thrust and the Opus, and then discuss our 1-year initiatives. So this will be looking at what's currently in there and the need to update. And this, again, we'll come up with a format for how exactly we approach this discussion or facilitate this discussion. But that first session again will be focused on the more long range being 3 to 5 year and mid range being 1-year goals. So those first 2 columns on the right side of the Opus. And then moving down, we'll do a little break from 2:15 to 2:30. So yeah, we'll allow ourselves a little bit of a break, and then from 2:30 to 4 is when we'll have our discussion on those, I say, quarterly actions. The way they're formatted in the Opus right now, it's broken into thirds for how we approach those. I think 3-month thrusts or 4-month thrusts. So we'll have that discussion again. What are those discrete, specific action items that we're taking on a quarterly or a triannual basis to achieve our goals and initiatives? And then at 4, we will break and have our cocktail reception. All right. So again, any thoughts, questions, maybe suggested revisions to that, or do folks feel pretty comfortable with that approach?
Works for me.
Yeah, looks
Sounds good.
All right. Thank you so much. Yeah.
All righty, bear with me. I accidentally closed out of my agenda.
That's all right.
Sorry about that. It was right here. All right, so that concludes our regular meeting. I'd take a motion to go into executive session at this point
So
for
moved.
for the purpose of personnel. And and so there's a motion and a second. If I could have, or all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 I
If I could have the board and Alex.
Yes, and we did kick Fred out.
Yeah.
So